Yes, the pattern was recognizable by the Washington Post, which put out a piece yesterday. Trump repeatedly bypasses Netanyahu, stoking dismay among Israelis. Israeli officials and their media lackeys are not terribly pleased. So here is Sky News' Mark Austin asking if the U.S. is cutting Israel out of key decisions. Israeli spokesman David Mencer snaps, calling it a talking point of Israel's enemies. So yes, this guy did not take that question very well.
Theme that there's a pattern developing. America has done this deal without Israel. They've done a deal with the Houthis, no Israel. They're talking to Iran, no Israel. Isn't this all humiliating for Benjamin Netanyahu?
Yeah, that's, again, the story which Hamas want you to share. But this war will end when the hostages come home and Hamas are gone. Simple as that.
See, this is why no one likes you guys, because he asks you a simple question and you jump down his throat.
Yeah.
You can see, not taking it well.
A minute before.
I'm merely stating facts and asking you questions. You can't.
No, they're not
answer
facts. They're opinions. They're opinions. We won't rest until.
I would have loved to have heard the rest of that. You can't answer everything. I would have loved for them not to cut him off. You can't answer every question like a bulldog who just got his tail cut with a pair of scissors.
They're your opinions, Mark. And Mark, you've been wrong about this war in every single moment. And we've had this discussion over the last 19 months. You've been wrong at every single point. You want to capitulate. You want Israel to capitulate to Hamas, and we won't. We won't do it because we're a democracy. I'm happy to be asked questions.
I appreciate that. Completely appreciate that.
Ask me a decent question, I'll answer it.
Well, please do. Tell me where this is wrong. Did the Americans have any involvement in the release of this? The Israelis have any involvement in the release of this hostage? Have the Israelis had any involvement in the deal with the Houthis that the Americans have done? Are the Israelis talking to Iran at the moment? That's were my questions. Where am I wrong on that? Please tell me, because it'll be interesting to know.
We are closer than ever with our American allies. What you're sharing is a view which Israel's enemies would like to share it to the outside world. It's not just wrong, it's morally backwards. Let's not confuse the arsonist with the firefighter. We're fighting to defeat Hamas in this war.
You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone.
Nice guy, that guy. What a diplomat. Wow. Those are the guys they hire for PR. Keep in mind, those are the guys like, hey, you know what? You would look great on camera.
Well, they had after October 7th, they had that really creepy guy. I forget his name, the skinny guy with the glasses.
Yeah. I forget his name. Yeah.
And then they got rid of him. Right. And now there doesn't seem to be a spokesperson. They seem to have just gotten rid of the idea and just decided to go with General Hasbara from whoever's available.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's an Israeli spokesperson. He is on the government payroll. Here's a guy who may as well be on their government payroll. Here's Mark Levin. Yes, old radio host, now has a weekly Fox News show. I think it's weekly. It used to be weekly. Who knows? Maybe they bumped him up. I'm not a regular viewer. Levin throws a fit over reports that Trump may put the interests of America over Israel by inking various new deals with Iran, the Saudis, and Hamas. So here is Mark Levin going on a rant about how Israel is basically being neglected, insisting, though, that he speaks for tens of millions of red-blooded Americans, including, yes, some Jews, but also a lot of Christians as well. Talk about the lady doth protest too much. Here he is.
The Middle East is filled with terrorists and terrorist regimes. Americans do not like Iran and the regime that runs it. They're terrorists. They keep threatening to destroy us and our friends, the Israelis. They're trying to get nuclear weapons and put them on intercontinental ballistic missiles. We reject it. I speak for tens of millions of red-blooded Americans.
Oh, sure you do.
I speak for Christians and Jews and others alike. This is the view of the American people.
You read a poll lately?
That's number one. Yeah. Americans hate Hamas. That's what we Americans reject and believe. We know who the good guys are. 80% of us support the state of Israel.
That's not true at all.
Our holy land for Jews and Christians. And most of us despise the terrorist and the terrorist regimes, all of which are one form of dictatorship or another. So that's the foundation. Let's begin there. If only Israel would accept a Palestinian state as a condition of Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords. If that's a condition, then who cares if they join the Abraham Accords? Accept a ceasefire with Qatar-funded Hamas, so Hamas, you see, can rebuild and strike Israel again. That's not going to happen, whether Qatar likes it or not. Accept a deal with Iran that does not fully dismantle their nuclear program. That better damn well not happen either.
That better damn well not happen either. And I speak for most Americans. Right. Talk about a general with no army. This is why the Daily Wire, subject to the next video, is failing, because this is just a completely declining view of the world. This whole approach is not popular anymore amongst anybody. They're advocating the interests of Israel over that of the United States. Don't forget, an American hostage was just freed, and they are fucking pissed about it. You could tell they're angry about it. You could tell they are butthurt about the fact that an American hostage, whatever we think of him, yes, I went over a little bit of the details. Those are not relevant to this segment. What's relevant to this segment is the American president negotiated the release of an American hostage, and they're fucking crying in their Cheerios about it.
And this is I gotta say before you get into it, because I do eavesdrop on some Zionists. This is their default view that it's terrible that they have to go and kowtow to the Qataris who were acting as bagmen to fund Hamas through Netanyahu.
Right.
That part they don't seem to know about, because the places they go for news don't tell them those kinds of things. And you know, I can't blame him. I can't blame Eden, because he probably feels like he has to. But
right.
It's terrible that he has to go through that humiliation ritual instead of going into Israel and thanking Netanyahu. Like, this is the default view, which comes from, they get their marching orders, man. This stuff comes from Mossad. It's the Hasbara that they put out, just like here in America, where everybody has the same exact point of view. All the media of a certain type has exactly the same take, to such an extent that it clearly came from on high. Same thing with this. Same thing with Zionists. Only they take their marching orders from Israel, from a foreign country. The foreign country tells them what their take is supposed to be on any given subject.
All right, here is Ben Shapiro.
Clearly, what Hamas is attempting to do is basically settle all outstanding business with the United States, so as to then create separation between the United States and Israel in Iran negotiations. That is what is happening with the Houthis as well. It is not a coincidence that as the Houthis are basically forswearing attacks on American shipping, and the United States is saying that the United States is no longer going to worry about the Houthis, essentially. That Hamas is now trying to do the same by releasing the sole living American hostage in the Gaza Strip, trying to basically say that the United States now has no part in that conflict. Well, okay, fine. I mean, if the United States has no part in that conflict, then Israel should just go and do what they need to do. That seems to me a proper solution with regard to the Gaza Strip.
Which, by the way, update, this broke today. I don't think I have this in the slideshow because it broke too late. Netanyahu has said they will go back in and finish the job, regardless of how these meetings in the Middle East go.
Now, the ugliest part, and there is an ugly part to this, is that there are widespread rumors and now news reports that Idan Alexander is going to be flown to Qatar to meet with the Emir of Qatar. This is vile. That's vile.
See, so he goes further than your Zionist friends. He calls the guy out. He calls him vile. Fucking guy's been, again, we all know who he is. Again, just to keep it focused, because it's tempting not to keep it focused. He's been in a dungeon for 19 months. He gets out. Now you want to call him vile for not going and thanking Netanyahu, who had almost a dozen different opportunities to get him out of the dungeon. No, now he's supposed to kiss Netanyahu's feet. How dare he go to Qatar? He actually calls him vile. Wow. I mean, he is vile, but for other reasons, not for this.
He should, of course, meet with President Trump.
He's vile for the reasons that Ben Shapiro loved him until yesterday. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of putting that.
So in America, he can do so in Israel. There are plenty of places that Idan Alexander and his family can express their gratitude to President Trump, as well they should. Going to Qatar to meet the Emir of Qatar. Qatar is a terror sponsor country. Qatar is the number one funder of Hamas. It is disgusting to have a hostage who was taken by a group funded by Qatar go to Qatar to thank the Emir of Qatar for his freedom. That's an absurdity on its face if it were to happen. It is wrong. It should not be facilitated by the United States. Qatar is the sponsor state of Hamas. In fact, if the Trump administration seriously wanted all hostages out of Gaza, they could do so tomorrow simply by telling the Emir of Qatar that the airbase in Qatar is going away and that it'll move to the UAE, which the United States could do. That should have been the approach of the Biden administration on October 8th. They should have said all the hostages come out or the airbase goes away. That's how closely tied together Qatar and Hamas are. Leydan Alexander is now 21. Hamas captured him when he was 19 on October 7th, 2023, of course. Now, all of this has some wider ramifications with regard to negotiations in the Middle East. Again, Steve Witkoff continues to say ridiculous things publicly. So Steve Witkoff, who again, I do not think is a good negotiator. I do not think that Steve Witkoff has demonstrated his bona fides along any lines. So far, all of the hostage deals have essentially been kind of mediocre in the sense that maximum pressure has not been exerted on the bad guys.
See, I would say Steve Witkoff is a bad negotiator because he negotiates a photo op ceasefire so that Donald Trump can take pictures with the freed hostages at his Inauguration Day festivities. That's why I would call him a mediocre negotiator. In fact, I think mediocre is too kind. The way he's talking about Steve Witkoff, the way he's talking about these negotiations, the way he's talking about how Israel didn't get enough in exchange for these hostage releases makes it very, very clear he's angry about these hostage releases. This is supposed to be an American conservative outlet. They're all about patriotism and flag waving, and yet it's clearly, you could watch, the rest of this is 7 more minutes. We're not going to watch the whole thing. But the guy is clearly bitter and butthurt over the release of an American hostage. What this exposes is that he knows, and Mark Levin knows, what Netanyahu knows, which is that the goal of this is to use the hostages as justification to go in and destroy Gaza. And Netanyahu put out a statement today saying they are going to go in with full force, as if they haven't been going in with full force already, and finish the job.
They've been showing tremendous
quickly.
restraint.
Exactly. And relocating the Palestinians quickly, because Netanyahu can feel the heat now turning up under him a little bit. So he puts out a statement saying, basically, we are committed to completing our war aims, which again, you're just talking about a mask-off situation where now it is all of a sudden revealed what we all could see very, very plainly for the last year and a half, which is that the Israelis don't care about the hostages. They don't care about the hostages at all. You watch Shapiro go on like that, you'd think he would be happy. Your president, who you supported, negotiated the release of the last American hostage in Gaza, and you're
got an
fucking
American out.
Right, and you got to stick up your ass half a mile long about it. What does that tell you?
Right. Sure. I think, I've been positing this for a while, that my experience going to Trump events, going to MAGA events, is they do not like Zionism. They tolerate it because the boss tells them they have to tolerate it. I wish I had filmed it. It was a very revealing moment for me. I didn't go in, but I was outside the Madison Square Garden rally. I did a little bit of filming, and there was a group of Orthodox Zionist Jews there, and they were dancing around, waving Trump flags. The vibe from the MAGA people could not have been clearer. They did not want to any part of this. It was very like, fine, like they were not happy to have to deal with that, but they wouldn't go after it because the boss made it very clear that this is part of their coalition, that this is something that he's going to back up. But they did not like it. And what you're seeing now with Daily Wire, to me, is the clearest evidence yet that that's the case. Conservative media is killing it, and Daily Wire is going bankrupt. Why? Why? They're going bankrupt because MAGA was never into this shit. The longer it goes on, and this could be why you're seeing a shift in posture from Trump, because he is politically astute. He can read the writing on the wall, man. I'm sure he saw that Marjorie Taylor Greene clip. His own allies, his own most prominent MAGA people are increasingly coming out and saying, what the fuck? Why do we have this obligation to this country. That it's so obvious they're trying to drag us into World War III. These people didn't like it with Ukraine, right? That was a big part of the argument against Biden and the Biden administration, that these people are slow marching us into World War III with Ukraine as the pretext. What? So they're going to accept Israel?
Please clap.